I'm Perry Franklin, and we're the Public Information Officer on the design phase of this project. And with me is Bob Schmidt, the lead designer engineer with Huval Engineering. And it is our pleasure to walk you through this project. I think this is a project, I don't know the other items that you've heard today, but this one probably has a lot of interest because of the obvious. This is a mega project as defined across the country. This is a major project. It's coming through Baton Rouge. How many of you live in Baton Rouge? Okay, so the vast majority of you. So you've heard about this project. And so we're here to present the facts to you, and I'll leave time to answer any questions that you may have. And we'll go ahead and get started. And so this project is one that has been in the news for a very long time. Decades ago, this project was in the news, and it did not get its clearance, and it died. And then it came back in 2011, and through 2011 through 2019, it went through all of the environmental processes, and in February of 2021, Federal Highways issued a finding of no significant impact on the project. And so that made it an actual project, and it's now moving towards construction. This project, the project limits are from LA 415 at the Lobdell exit in West Baton Rouge. It crosses the Mississippi River, and then it goes on to Essen Lane on I-10 and I-12. The entire yellow portion will be addressed and expanded, with the exception of the bridge. The superstructure will not be expanded because it cannot be. So when you look at these projects, they're broken down then into further segments of work. The first segment of work has been identified, and it is from the curve coming off of the interstate, off the bridge, coming into Baton Rouge, to just east of Acadian. And so that's that green circle you see. That's the first project that's going to be attacked on this project. And I'll tell you, if you're taking pictures and doing all that, this is uploaded at I-10BR.com. And so you can go in, everything that we're talking about is at I-10BR.com. So also, when you look at this segment, it is the one that will yield the greatest benefits for the congestion and the safety issues that affect this portion of I-10. The scenario that has been selected by DOTD and Federal Highways is one that's called a construction manager at risk. Federal Highways, LADOTD is the owner. There are two teams that have been selected. Bob's team leads the design side, CoreX10, and Kiewit Bow is the contractor. Kiewit is a large national firm that has done a JV with Bow, and there's many other state contractors on the contractor side. And there's also an independent cost estimator, Krebs. So every time these two companies work together, and they've been for the last 18 months embedded together, on the left side, CoreX10 and Kiewit Bow, it is a process which yields efficiencies. And when we get to final designs, Kiewit Bow is given CoreX10 concepts and designs and vice versa. And it has already yielded some time savings and cost savings. Then those have to go up through Krebs to do an independent cost estimation to ensure that those cost savings are actual before it goes to DOTD. So that's a process that is happening on this project. So purpose and need. Every project that is done with federal dollars must go through the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969. And this is a significant project using federal dollars. And so it met all the criteria and has followed that process. And DOTD follows that just as if there's a presidential executive order or anything of that nature. It follows the National Environmental Act. So the purpose and need of this project is basically to add additional capacity to this portion of the interstate system, and also to do some other design enhancements, additional shoulders for emergency use, longer acceleration and deceleration. If you're in Baton Rouge, you know there are many places where the acceleration lanes are inadequate. If you get on at Acadian westbound by TJ Ribbs, it's a very short acceleration. If you're getting off on some ramps on Perkins and Acadian, very short deceleration. There's some safety hazards and things that have to be addressed here. Lane arrangements that reduce weaving. One of the dangerous weaves, there's really two. College Drive flyover is going to handle the first dangerous weave. If you're coming westbound on I-10, you have to cross over the trunk line coming off of I-12. That's going to be eliminated by the project that's underway right now. And also at Washington Street, if you're coming out of downtown on I-110, if you're getting off at Washington Street, you have to cross over all of the traffic coming across the bridge. And so that is also going to be eliminated. And people ask all the time, that's not a part of the presentation, how's it going to be eliminated? The new left side terrace off ramp is going to allow you to come from downtown, and if you're going to Old South Baton Rouge, you'll take that left side terrace lane. The new reconstructed interstate of I-10 that we're going to talk about in a moment, we rebuild Washington Street, but it's going to be closer to the turn, therefore lanes of traffic cannot even access it coming from downtown. And so that's how that weave is going to be eliminated. So how does this project fit within the regional approach? This project alone will not be a silver bullet to solve all of the interstate traffic woes in East Baton Rouge Parish. It is one of many projects. It's one of the largest suite of projects. This project is very important, however, because if you look at the traffic count that comes across that bridge each and every day, it's significant. It's almost double of what it was engineered to handle when it was engineered in the late 50s. It's almost double. The suite of projects that DOTD and Federal Highways are looking at to alleviate traffic in this region, the I-10 project that we're talking about. Right now, a new South Mississippi River Bridge project is under study. A north bypass is in the statewide plan. For those of you who are familiar with West Baton Rouge, LA1 to LA415 connector, been on the books for a very long time. That project is now in its design phase. So where you have LA415 interchange, there's going to be a new bridge crossing the Intracoastal there, and it's going to bring you to LA1 southbound. And so that's going to be also an additional help to those who travel on LA1 all the time. You'll be able to get onto the interstate at LA415. Widen I-10, LA73 to LA22 is in the planning phase, and widening I-12 Satsuma to Hammond is also in the planning phase. So this is one project within a suite of projects to try to mitigate and alleviate some of the congestion that plagues this area. Travel time reductions. And this is variable. It depends on if you are going east or west. It depends on the time of the day. It depends on if there's an obstruction in the lanes. But a 2 to 18% improvement is what has been modeled when this project is concluded. So you especially, you need predictability. You're in the logistics business, and right now, I can't imagine the toughness. You know, I'm from Baton Rouge, born and raised, and we're known for football and traffic. That's not what we want to be known for, just football. So these improvements will hopefully reduce congestion and allow drivers to plan their trips with increased assurance that they will reach their destination at a scheduled time. Also, reduction in crashes. By reducing some of these weaves, we've got some very dangerous weaves in this segment of the interstate. It will also reduce some of the crashes. Noise reduction. This entire portion of the corridor will have noise walls, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So in early September, a press release came out. We have public meetings. We've been working on this project since 2011, and we've had engagements with the public throughout that process. One of the things that was stated early on is that throughout the project, 3 lanes of traffic would be maintained both east and west. Well, early on in the project, it was an expansion project to put an additional eastbound lane onto the current infrastructure and an additional westbound lane onto the additional infrastructure. It was further, throughout the process of this project, it was determined that this entire portion of this project needs to be rebuilt. And so I'm going to share with you, if you haven't already read it in the newspaper, that this portion of the interstate is going to be taken to ground and totally rebuilt. And so now, to maintain 3 lanes of traffic is a little bit more difficult than it was when we were just adding 1 lane on the east and 1 lane on the west. But however, DOTD issued a press release early September stating that they will look at that and see if it's feasible to maintain that sort of traffic during construction. And so that's what this is all about. It's really during stage 2, and I'll talk about stage 2 and stage 4. Those are the big stages of a 5-stage process, and I'll explain all of those stages to you at this time. So if you take nothing else from this presentation, take this slide away. Work has begun in 2023. There's already been utility ducts going underneath City Park Lakes Bridge, which most people are unaware of. Utilities being relocated. You see the big cranes at City Park now. They are there to begin building the expanded City Park Lakes Bridge, westbound side. All of those things are underway right now. In stage one, the green item is a new item. The flyover, when you're going westbound, right, the approach to the Mississippi River Bridge is going to be expanded. That flyover that's real tight right now, 2 lanes, that's going to be expanded. So that's the green line. Stage two, that's when we're going to have to be creative. That's when you in the logistics business are going to have to be aware of what's going on in Baton Rouge. In 2025, so in 2023 to 2024, expand the flyover approaching the Mississippi River Bridge westbound. There's going to be a new temporary 4th lane built onto the interstate from Acadian to the I-10 merger. And the reason for that will come clear in a little bit. It's because when we get to stage 2, there's going to be a barricade placed at the curve coming eastbound into Baton Rouge. From that barricade to just east of Acadian Thruway, that side of the interstate is going to be demolished, totally taken down. And the reason we needed the 4th temporary lane added on the current westbound side is all traffic is going to be shifted to the current westbound side. So when you see that new 4th temporary lane completed, when you see that flyover completed, you know it's about to happen. That's when they're going to drop overnight, probably overnight, right, Bob? When you're sleeping, crash barrier down the middle of the current westbound side, and then the next morning, all traffic coming across the bridge eastbound will then be taken on to that flyover and put on the current westbound side to come through Baton Rouge. And the current eastbound side of the interstate will be taken down and rebuilt. So that's stage 2. So those are all facts I just said. You know, that sentence I just said has been miswritten and misquoted. But that's stage 2. And I have some images I'm going to show you exactly how that's going to be done. Stage 3 is basically when we're going to shift off of the current westbound side onto the newly completed eastbound side and do this vice versa. Stage 4 is then the demolition of the current westbound side, and everybody will be traveling east and west on the new eastbound side. And then stage 5, both sides are fully completed. They're both opened up, and you're going to have 4 lanes going east, 4 lanes going west, 12-foot inside shoulder, 12-foot outside shoulder, and it's going to be the width of basically 6 travel lanes when we get to 2028. So 2025 is when really we have to become creative, especially in your industry. 2025. When we get to stage 4, we're back to 3 lanes east, 3 lanes west. Even though it's traveling on one side, we're back to the current capacity when we get to stage 4. So this is just sort of an illustration, and I'll walk you through these pretty quickly. This is stage 1. This is going to beginning of 2024. That yellow line depicts that new 4th lane that's going to be built, temporary 4th lane on the current westbound side. So what you're seeing, this is like TJ Ribs is right up here. This is Acadian Thruway. So that yellow line is the new temporary lane that's going to be built. The next thing that's going to be built is the expanded flyover. This is the westbound flyover approaching the MRB. You can see it's going to be expanded on the outside and expanded on the inside. And at the end of the day, when the project is all completed in 2028, this is going to give a lot wider situation for vehicles to come westbound out of Baton Rouge. It's going to be a safety lane on the outside, a safety lane on the inside. But during stage 2, it's needed because we need capacity to get people off the current eastbound side and put them on here. So once we have closed the current eastbound side, you can see there's 2 lines. There's 2 yellow lines going westbound. There's 2 white lines going eastbound. For 14 months, that's what Baton Rouge is going to be faced with. And you can see the current eastbound side is coming down to just past Acadian Thruway. Y'all groaned at the right moment when y'all saw that slide. That's when most people groan. And so this talks about when you're coming through Baton Rouge, when the current, and you can see where that barricade is going to be right there, right before that turn. So all of this is coming down. If you're coming out of downtown on I-10, you can see this new connector is going to be built to get you onto the interstate. No, I'm sorry, it's right down here. They're going to build you a little crossover here to get you onto the interstate. And there's going to be 2 lanes going westbound. All right, so here's the other groan. And if you're coming across the bridge eastbound, they're going to shift you over. And on that new expanded flyover, there's going to be 1 lane of traffic for 14 months coming through Baton Rouge to cross over on that flyover. Right there. Right there. If y'all have a question for it, that's why I've got Bob here. Okay, so this talks about there's a transition moment after the new side, the new eastbound side is completed. Stage 3 is a transition moment. And then stage 4, we do just the opposite. If you remember, I said there's going to be 4 travel lanes with an inside 12-foot shoulder, an outside 12-foot shoulder. That's how we can then put 3 lanes coming westbound and 3 lanes going eastbound, and then the current westbound side is taken down and rebuilt. The project then flips. But the good thing about this flip is there's more capacity when we make this flip in stage 4 because the interstate is wider. And just some other notes, and Bob will shoot me when I say this, like in residential code, in interstate code, this entire interstate is going to be a little bit higher than the current deck that's out there, which means that the situation underneath is a lot different. Right now, the piers are 50 foot on center. These will be 100 foot on center. And so when we talk about where these interstates go through people's communities, it's going to feel a lot different. It's going to feel a lot better. It gives federal highways a lot more opportunity to do something creative. And so in stage 5, there's a little bit of transition work, 3 lanes on either side, and then the final deliverable is here. 4 lanes going east, 4 lanes going west. So 2025 through 2028 are the critical years of this project. Okay, 2025 with stage 2 is the most critical because once we get to stage 4, again, you have 3 lanes going east, 3 lanes going west. Then there's 2 more segments of this project from this portion here just east of Acadian to Essen, and then on the West Baton Rouge side. So maintenance of traffic, and this is what we talked about. This is a current picture. This machinery is out there to start constructing the new westbound half of the City Park Lakes Bridge. Alternate corridors during construction. You can see LA 415, LA 1, Airline Highway, Florida Boulevard, and I'll talk briefly about some of the enhancements that they are going to do to these roadways. So here, off-site improvements, there's a strategy for new signaling, new striping, new signage, adaptive timing for signals, because we realize that individuals coming into Baton Rouge are going to want to get off at 415 and then make their way to US 190 and then across the old bridge. And so this project is looking at all of these things to try to move traffic as efficiently as possible. Maintenance of traffic, again, there's a statewide advanced signage system all the way from I-20, I-49, you name it. The entire state's going to be communicating to individuals coming and going of what's happening in Baton Rouge. And so this is already being planned. Traffic queuing system during construction. This is technology to sort of change signals on lights and do different things. There's going to be a super robust system of local governments working with state governments on this project because this project is significant and everyone understands it. We're talking to city government right now, state government right now about flexing schedules, if anything, COVID taught us, it was that some people can work remotely. During stage 2, we're going to have to pull everything out to reduce the load of vehicles coming through Baton Rouge. More traffic mitigation, some of the things I just talked about. Peak hours, we've already met with the airport, we already met with EBR school system, the bus transportation individuals with CATs. We're meeting with all these individuals to ensure that DOTD understands the significance of all of this scheduling and all of the work that has to be done. And that's why we're here with you as well today. So these are some of the things that are being discussed by teams of people. Presence of additional MAP trucks, quick response teams, I'll talk about that in a second. These teams have been meeting already. They have been modeling through in stage 2 and 4 what needs to happen. Promotion of DOTD's 511 service and app. Incident management plan. There's about 50 individuals that have been meeting in the 9-parish region, all of the emergency responders, individuals who with EMS, you name it. They have been meeting on a regular basis, talking about this project, realizing the significance of this project. And so there's, all types of mitigations measures, like the walls that are going to be put down the midline are going to have operable gates if accidents need to be cleared, and individuals are being trained and queued. MAP trucks, probably where you see 1 or 2 around Baton Rouge right now, there may be up to 5 MAP trucks. There will be officers that will work this segment of the interstate 24/7. There will be wreckers, light wreckers, heavy wreckers. People understand the significance of this project, and so, talking to you in your business, AM, there's going to have to be some modifications to businesses that deal with logistics, correct? And so we want you to be aware of this timeline, how to stay in touch with this project. I-10BR.com is where we post every update, is where we post every plan, every drawing. And so if you want to share this information with your teams back at the office, I-10BR.com is where you can go and see a lot of information. And that's where we'll keep things updated on a timely basis. So this is a big part of federal highway projects now. Context-sensitive solutions. Federal highways want to improve communities where interstates go through. This was not the case back in the 50s and 60s. It was basically connect 2 dots and put the interstate there. And now there's a lot of effort, and we've been engaging citizens and stakeholders and elected officials for about the last 9 years, trying to understand what needs to happen to make this to be a successful project. And so in this segment, there's going to be a new City Park Lakes Bridge. There's a greenway that's going to be constructed underneath the interstate in Old South Baton Rouge. So basically from Expressway Park down to Dalrymple, you will be able to connect. We're going to connect the greenway that starts at the levee downtown. So now bikers can start at the levee downtown and come through. It stops at Myrtle Street today. It's going to continue underneath this interstate. Noise walls. You can see here there's acrylic noise walls in this illustration. There's see-through acrylic noise walls across the bridge, and then there's opaque noise walls where it's going through residential areas, and that's throughout the entire corridor. And the Perkins Road area, I live right by the Perkins Road area. Don't wear high heels, ladies, when you're getting out of your car underneath the interstate right now. It's a mess. I'm going to show you an illustration of how that area is going to be greatly enhanced and greatly improved as a result of this project. So this is the new rendering of the City Park Lake Bridge. You'll see there'll be 4 decorative, and what's the right word, Bob, for these things on the corners?
Towers?
Towers? Okay. They'll be illuminated. They'll be illuminated at night. Underneath, there'll be decorative lighting underneath. So this will be a signature bridge coming through Baton Rouge. This is really hard to understand, but basically this is what I was just saying. From Expressway Park at Myrtle Street down to Dalrymple, that green line represents a new multi-use trail, a bikeway, and there's going to be amenities throughout there. It's going to be well lit, and this will allow Baton Rouge to be reconnected, if you will. This also shows just a portion of the area. There'll be some new roundabouts introduced around the Old South Baton Rouge area. This is one at Terrace Avenue, because as you know right now, that new left-sided off-ramp, this roundabout will allow you to now get off at, so let me just kind of give you that scenario. If you're going to LSU and you're coming from downtown, you'll get off at Terrace. There will not be any more Dalrymple exit on the new interstate. A lot of this has been modeled to get cars and trucks across the bridge, and so that off-ramp is being reduced. And so if you're coming from downtown, you'll get off at that new Terrace exit, and there's going to be a new frontage road that's going to take you from Terrace all the way to Dalrymple. Okay, so that'll be your exit coming from downtown. This is an illustration of what underneath the interstate could look like in that old South Baton Rouge area. And you can sort of see that lady on a bicycle. That's the illustrated greenway going through there. But it's much cleaner underneath the deck now. The columns now are 50 foot on center. There'll be 100 foot on center with the new project. The deck is a little bit higher, 2 to 3 foot higher than it currently is. And so it allows you a new opportunity. This is just talking about the transparent and acrylic sound barriers. There was some concern by environmentalists that birds were going to crash into the opaque, and so we had to find a solution at City Park Lakes, and so now this is a solution for the pelicans and everything else that sort of take care of their activities at City Park Lake. Perkins Road area. This is sort of an x-ray looking through the new interstate. It's very busy, but I'll just sort of walk you through it. This is Perkins Road here. This is the Perkins overpass to my left. And so what you see now is the plan is to leave this community much better than it is today. This is all landscape, well-lit parking with multi-use trails underneath the interstate. One of the big opportunities here, I mentioned that the Dalrymple off-ramp going eastbound is being removed. The Perkins off-ramps, both east and west, are being removed. And so Acadian is being beefed up. So when we put the longer acceleration and deceleration onto Acadian, you are basically on top of the current Perkins Road on and off. And if you increase the acceleration and deceleration for Perkins, you would have obliterated the business community underneath. And so that was a very easy compromise with the community. And so one of the things is this opportunity with all this new real estate where the current on and off ramps are. It really gave a couple acres to leave an amenity behind. And so this is Powrans right here. And you know where the on and off ramps are right behind Powrans. This is now going to be a well-done parking area, multi-use trail, and almost a park setting where that real estate now currently sits. This is an illustration if you're going Perkins Road, going towards, say, the Julio's, if you're going towards the Perkins overpass. This is just an illustration of what it could feel like, what it could look like to really promote more community activities. This is a bird's eye view looking at where you currently go onto the ramp to get onto the interstate at Perkins to go westbound. Now it's at grade, there are no ramps here, and this can be landscape parking, and this has already been drawn. And so this is Acme right here. This is Powrans back here, so you know exactly this area. It also allowed us to take this multi-use pathway, create a multi-use pathway, and so for walkers and bikers, they can get all the way behind the Julio's without ever going down Perkins and doing things of that nature. And it would be a coup, and we're trying to do this, connect this shopping center with over here to where you can park one time and access the entire area. Okay, where am I pointing? So in closing, send us an email, info@i10br.com. If you want to sign up for newsletters or sign up for press releases, things of that nature, you can also go to the website, i10br.com. You can navigate through this website and find the environmental studies. You can navigate and find this presentation. There's a lot of information there. And I would say also, you might want to sign up for My DOTD, because that's where they send out the official press releases every time something is authorized, every time something is released. if you can get on that distribution list, you will get exactly what the media gets. And that's my DOTD. And it's an app. So I think, Bob, I don't know if this is going to work or not. Do you have an active link or button on there?
This visualization of the greenfield approach will be centered around the Louise Street area. And one of the main benefits of the greenfield approach is that it limits the temporary widening and throwaway widening to only one side. And on this approach, we're going to be using the I-10 westbound side. In phase 1, temporary widening will be constructed along I-10 westbound. After that is complete, traffic will be shifted to where both directions of I-10 travel will be on the westbound side. This allows the complete reconstruction of I-10 eastbound. Now you'll note the substructure locations for the existing substructure will be avoided by the new substructure. And in fact, we're going to increase the span length to really reduce the visual clutter of substructure by 2/3. In phase 3, both directions of traffic will be shifted to the eastbound side and the westbound construction will occur. Now I'd also like to note that because of this approach, we're able to build each direction in only one stage. That minimizes all construction joints and really simplifies the construction. Here's your final layout, along with auxiliary lanes and off-ramps. Let's take a look from the side. Now underneath, you'll notice that the span lengths have been increased dramatically and that the visual clutter has been reduced. This will allow for the proposed greenway to come in, and we're also able to better do architectural enhancements on these columns. It can result in a much better finished product for the community.
All right, so I think we have some time remaining to answer any questions that you may have. All right, we've got a question here.
Yes. One question, but three-prong of the question. You made comment about everybody's got to work together, especially in 2025, because it's going to be a mess, right? Every time the public seems to communicate with the department about its concerns, and I'm going to give you an example right now of how it seems like the concerns aren't necessarily fully vetted in a department, and I'm going to bring it up right now. On the airline highway in Baton Rouge, and then on Highway 1 on the other side, on the west side, especially during 2025, it's been brought up more than once, more than twice in venues that I've been to concerning signalization and what exactly is going to be done to enhance the signalization so that those two can be two thoroughfares, one for the 110 traffic trying to get south or west, if you want to call it that, or east, or whatever the case, especially east and south, I guess you'd call it. And then on the west side on Highway 1 for that traffic heading eastbound, right, maybe through the Sunshine Bridge and through Donaldsonville. I'm an intermodal trucker, so you know those two corridors will be extremely critical in the signalization. So my question is exactly what's been done about that, number one. And then number two, I had made a suggestion way back to Secretary Wilson many times over many venues in the past that the intermodal trucking community, even though you know we are, if you look at the total scope, we may not be a huge percentage, but we're certainly a noticeable percentage of truck traffic through this lane, either coming from the West Bank or coming from the north side on 110. Why not work? Because it was made comment that there's dollars available, significant dollars available for mitigation of traffic on this project. We suggested, why not fund the Port of New Orleans to work excessive night hours to take our intermodal traffic off of this span during this whole 25, 26. So for that 12 to 14 month, I think it was up there. Why can't some of those dollars be spent on that and take our intermodal trucks off of this span and put them at night when it's not in demand? Thank you.
All right, so thank you for that question. So the first question is, I have some positive answer and a little bit of a negative answer. So there was two corridors mentioned. One was Airline Highway and one was LA1. The good news is that under this project, for traffic mitigation, there will be a new traffic signal system on Airline Highway under this project. It's called Adaptive Traffic Signal System, which when traffic diverts off of I-10, which we expect, and they want to use Airline Highway, then the new traffic signal system will measure that traffic in real time. So we can predict with our models how much traffic might try to divert, but it's a prediction. It's not really what's going to happen. So this system will measure what's actually happening, and it will adjust itself to maximize its efficiency to process through traffic on the corridor. That's Airline Highway. That's one of those alternative corridors that Perry showed you in the slides up there. Yeah. Now on LA1, as it stands now, there is not a plan to do an adaptive traffic management signal system on that route. And the traffic models that we do use to assess all this did not see the benefits on that corridor and the traffic diversions on that corridor to make that part of the mitigation strategy for the overall project. So, like I said, mixed bag there. Good news on Airline, maybe not so much on LA1 because we just didn't see the benefit. And then on the other question, those are very good thoughts that you had too, and I'm glad you talked to Secretary Wilson. And we have a new interim secretary. We're going to have a new permanent secretary early next year, sounds like. So those would be the people to keep talking to, because our job, Perry and I's job as we sit here today, is to design the project that's before us, right? And to use the funds that the department has determined are available for this project. And the idea of using the Port of New Orleans and making their trucks work only at night as part of the mitigation strategy seems like it might make sense, but those are not things we can do under this project as we design it for what Perry showed you on the screen.
Was there any consideration on doing a bypass from Lafayette to 190 across, and possibly even over to the St. Francisville Bridge, and then using LA-10 to get east and try to just bypass Baton Rouge completely? Because this is going to shut down our city. I mean, our company is split on both sides of the river. It's going to be absolute nightmare for our people running paperwork back and forth for our various locations. This is going to make the logistics of logistics. It's going to crush us. It's going to make us find out all new models of how to function.
Yeah. So I'll answer that, and then you can chime in. But so yes, the Perry showed you one of the slides is a statewide advanced changeable message signing system that if you're on I-10 coming from Houston towards Baton Rouge, it starts at the border, and the signs and the messages are repeated every, I think it's 30 minutes. As you drive through, you'll see these signs. So the idea is that if you're coming in from Houston towards Baton Rouge, you're on I-10, the signs say, advise you, they suggest, we can't make anybody do anything, that when you get to Lafayette, you want to go north on I-49, and then you want to turn right or turn east on 190 and go across the old bridge in Baton Rouge, as opposed to staying on I-10 until either you get to Baton Rouge or until you get to LA 415 or LA 1, which by that time traffic's already backed up anyway. So we don't want to, we want to encourage you to divert sooner and use US 190 instead of I-10, and then you use the old US 190 bridge across the river, which has additional capacity that nobody's using. We have not the plan currently does not contain any signing that would suggest for people to use the new St. Francisville Bridge and LA-10. We don't have that, but we do have part of what you mentioned in there. And similarly, if I'm coming from Mississippi going west, we have a similar advanced changeable message signing system where these This is not one sign where you hope they see it, These are multiple signs that are repeated over and over and over. So to reinforce that message, to suggest that people divert, they don't have to, but we give them that suggestion.
And they're also on I-20 in Bossier Parish. If you're coming out of Dallas, you may want to stay on I-20. Yeah.
Have y'all talked to traffic riders around the country or the major brands to try to avoid this area at all costs? I mean, that's a PR campaign that needs to be done. Or is that going to just kind of be reflexive? Once someone realizes it can take 30 hours to get across the country by using Baton Rouge, they're going to naturally divert. I'm not trying to.
No.
I mean, it's just reality.
I personally am not that person, and I'm trying to think of who would have been on the team who would have had that obligation, because there's different departments within DOTD that are engaged on this project, and there's one department that handles, intermodal and heavy loads and all these kinds of things, and they're all in these meetings. So I don't want to speak for anyone, but those types of things have been on the table.
Other operators are going to avoid the place like the plague.
Question in the back?
I've been a part of an elevated lane, like an express lane, just through lane. It doesn't stop there.
If you remember Governor Edwards, I think when he ran for governor last time, that was on his platform, I think. And I recently saw that in Philadelphia, so it is feasible. It can be done.
Well, there's a lot of challenges to it. Technically, you mentioned the residential codes and the interstate codes, right? Or the code, there's a lot of complexity to that. And, how do you tie that? If you have an elevated lane for this part, how do you tie that back into the existing section on each end? How does that affect right-of-way acquisition? How does that affect everything else that's going on around you? And then does it give you the benefit that you're looking for? That's been on the table for 30 years, ever since I've been in this business. But
They do it in Texas.
Yeah.
Other places.
Yeah.
I figured you do it here.
One of the things, I don't disagree. One of the things I mentioned was that Perkins on and off coming off on the interstate, and so there's more load coming to Acadian. One of the things that may be recognized is that the train trestle was recently replaced on Acadian, and that was done to do a couple things. There's 2 lanes going south, there's 2 lanes coming north. With the final project, there's going to be 3 lanes going north and 3 lanes coming south. And so that new design allows all of that to take place, because that actually will be lifted in one lift. The road bed's going to be raised slightly to get it out of the flooding that takes place right now. And what happens when Dawson Creek floods, it floods back into Acadian. And so to try to mitigate some of that flooding that takes place there, that entire train scenario is going to be modified. And the first big piece of it has already been done. But you'll see further enhancements once the project gets moving, because the off-ramp will have a dedicated sort of 3rd lane to get to Perkins, and then the same thing to get back on the interstate. So there's a lot of other improvements at grade, connecting local arterials that will be a part of this. Another improvement's going to be at Dalrymple. Right now, you cannot leave LSU's campus and go eastbound. There will be a new eastbound movement without crossing over the lake. Basically, you'll get up on the interstate like you go right now westbound behind Knock Knock Museum. There'll be a new service road that you'll then do a Texas U-turn at Washington, and then you'll go eastbound coming out of Dalrymple, coming out of LSU. So there's lots of little improvements like that we can talk about, but another question.
So I didn't hear any mention of the Nicholson exit, Highway 30. Obviously, there'll be a lot of folks diverting that way, especially chemical trucks heading to the chemical plants. Is there a plan to mitigate the dangers of all those chemical trucks going down Highway 30 through LSU's campus, as well as the condition of Nicholson Highway 30?
So unassociated with this project, there's actually an improvement going on right now with the Nicholson interchange. There are sort of 3 projects that will all sort of spawn out of this larger project. Nicholson, interchange improvement, the terrace exit was sort of spawned out of this. The College Drive flyover was created, and all of those things are trying to get ahead of 2025. So when 2025 comes, the College Drive flyover, should that one be completed? Yeah, okay. Nicholson should be completed. Only the interchange with the approach going towards Nicholson. So the condition of Nicholson, that's a separate project. I don't know if Move EBR is going to do anything with Nicholson.
Yeah, so y'all are probably aware, or maybe not, that Nicholson is LA 30, right? It's always been LA 30, but it's in that transfer program that DOTD has to reassign that to city ownership. So it's not going to be a state highway any longer. And so it really doesn't answer your question. No, I don't think there's anything we can do to say, hey, trucks, you can't use Nicholson, right? Yeah, they're going to use it. So I'm not. Yeah. So I don't really know what the solution would be to try to mitigate that, but other than to have them avoid Baton Rouge if possible, like we talked about earlier with the statewide advanced signing program. If you do need to come through the Baton Rouge region, we encourage you to use the old US 161 bridge instead of I-10, and use Airline Highway, where we'll have the new adaptive traffic management signal system. And do the best we can. You know, there's not any magic bullet out there. We just do the best we can.
All right, final question. Thank you.
Does this impact evacuation routes, compressed roads?
Hurricane evacuation is not east-west on I-10 through Baton Rouge. Hurricane evacuation is north and south from Baton Rouge. And so I-10 in this region is not a hurricane evacuation route. And so, you know, not that people don't use it that way, because if my family needs to get out of the way of a hurricane, and if I decide that's the best way, that's where I'm going. But if you look on a map, it's not a part of the system. So, and the thing to remember is this: during that whole construction phase, they have 3 lanes in each direction on I-10 right now. During those whole 5 years, we're going to have 3 lanes in each direction on I-10. So the only time the potential is that 12-month to 14-month period during stage 2, where Perry showed you 2 lanes in each direction. But that's what I talked about earlier. They've asked us, DOTD has, and we're looking at it today, to say, is there any way we can also keep that as 3 lanes in each direction? And so that there's a reasonable chance of that. And then, so I think the schedule has the department making a decision on that in December of this year. And so if that decision was, yeah, let's do that, then there would be at no time during this entire 5-year period where you would have any fewer lanes on I-10 than what you have today. So.
All right. We thank you for your attention and your time.